What are the nice things we might want for the United Kingdom? Comprehensive healthcare for all through a national health service, well-made and up-to-date infrastructure like roads, water, sewage, communication, world-class science and medical research, high-quality education across the board, income and care for the elderly and infirm. Can we afford these? Yes, we can. The UK is one of the richest countries in the world, but somehow we've come to think that the nice things we want as a country are unaffordable. We believe there's a shortage of pounds. We don't realise the power that comes about from the UK having its own currency. Yet such power can allow us to mobilise the huge resources that are available, especially human resources, to achieve what is important to us. Many people, including a lot of politicians, commentators and economists, believe that the government has to act like a household. They believe that, like a household, the government has an income that it raises from taxation. It cannot spend money that it doesn't have, and if it borrows money to cover a pressing expense, that money must ultimately be repaid. According to this household model, the government must think ahead before borrowing money to spend. Do we raise enough money through tax to pay this debt off? And if the answer is no, the money can't be spent. There isn't a magic money tree, as Theresa May famously told nurses seeking a pay rise in 2017. But there is a flaw in this understanding of money. It does not take into account the very important fact that the UK government is the sole issuer of a sovereign currency, the pound. There is another model that completely changes the way we understand how money works. It's called modern monetary theory. It's been around for a generation and it has a solid background of academic work behind it. It argues that in a country that has a sovereign currency like the UK, money is not a commodity like gold, the supply of which is clearly limited. Instead, the state can create as much currency as it needs. Let's see how this changes things. As a currency issuer, our government in Westminster is different from the rest of us, who are currency users. This matters. None of us, whether the UK nations and regions like Scotland or Yorkshire, nor businesses and corporations, nor individual households, can issue the pound. Only the UK government and its agents can and do. This ability to create pounds makes it unique, but somehow our politicians don't seem to realise this. As currency users, you and I have to acquire pounds before we can spend them. If necessary, we can borrow. The UK government, as a currency issuer, creates pounds every time they spend. They do this by using a computer keyboard to make the numbers in someone's account larger. This is the power we gave them when we voted them in. This matters. The government cannot be forced to default. It can always make its payments. There is no shortage of pounds if you are the issuer of pounds. If the government can create as much money as it needs, why do we need to pay taxes? By insisting that a fraction of the pounds it spends must be returned as tax, the UK government creates a demand for their currency. We are obliged to pay our taxes in the government's currency. We can't use anything else. Not US dollars, Bitcoin or supermarket vouchers, only pounds sterling. If we don't, the government has the legal right to punish us either through fines or even the loss of freedom. The government can spend as necessary to give us the things we want: security and defence, health and social care, whatever. When they spend, they give us the pounds we need to pay our taxes. The spending puts pounds into the economy. The taxes take them out. That spending is only limited by the resources available, particularly labour, not by the size of the tax take. These two flows need to be kept in balance. The government has to buy resources on the open market, and if it buys up too much, it will force the private sector to try and outbid it. Prices would rise, driving up inflation. Too much tax and not enough spending will drain the economy of pounds. Businesses contract and unemployment grows. So does private debt. But doesn't the UK government have to borrow from the markets? Aren't its finances subject to the whims of the bond investors? No, they are not. Monetarily sovereign governments issue bonds for other reasons. These days, the UK government doesn't need to borrow because it can always create pounds, and bondholders know this. They know that the government can always pay. That's why government bonds are an important risk-free part of any investment strategy. What gets called government borrowing is not borrowing in the sense that you or I, currency users, experience it. Government bonds are really just saving accounts with a gilt-edged return. But in a mistaken understanding of how our money system works, politicians create arbitrary promises and fiscal rules to link their spending plans to so-called borrowing. But what about the deficit? Surely the government must balance its books. When the government spends, it puts pounds into the economy. When it taxes, it takes them out. The amount the government spends in excess of what it taxes is called the deficit. It's a word with very negative connotations, but elementary bookkeeping tells us that where there is a deficit, there must be a surplus. That surplus exists as all our savings lumped together. The trillions of pounds in savings accounts is the cumulative deficit that has built up over decades. It is simply the pounds that the UK government created which haven't yet been returned to the government as tax. When the government says it must pay down the debt, it is essentially saying that it must drain away our savings. Is that such a good idea? If politicians on all sides understood how the government's currency really works, they would appreciate their central role in a healthy economy. They would spend as much as needed to give us what we require, the reason the government exists in the first place. They would tax to achieve specific social outcomes and keep prices stable. A job guarantee scheme would ensure employment for anyone willing and able to work, itself a powerful stabilizer of the economy. When we understand the true nature of money, we can hold government to account and ensure it uses its power of currency sovereignty to fulfill the responsibility to serve the people of the country.